Most Honorable Senator Siplin.
If you're looking for positivity or looking for encouragement, to me a Princeton aims to educate you, to give you the push to believe, to have the mindset for success, mindset for success, to have the mindset for success, to have the mindset for success.
Welcome to the Mindset for Success show. I'm Tamia Brinson, your host. And our guest today is attorney Gary Siplin, and he was in the Florida House and the Florida Senate. And he is the managing director, the managing partner at Siplin Law Firm PA. And we also have Russell Drake, and he is the CEO and founder of Build Black Daily. So, Attorney Siplin and Russell Drake, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us on your number one show. We appreciate it.
All right. So today we're continuing our discussion about the handling of Haitian migrants. And once again, just to give the audience an overview of what occurred about a couple of weeks ago, reports stated that there were approximately 15,000 Haitian migrants at the Texas border, and they were all under terrible conditions under just this one bridge. And a photograph came out and some footage about showing the Border Patrol agents on horseback with what appears to be whips or a rope or some type in their hands, and they were aimed at the migrants. And of course, that created an outrage just because of the imagery and what it looked like. And eventually, though, the migrants were moved out, they were processed and deported. Some were allowed to stay in and apply. But let's discuss the immigration policy. Attorney Siplin, I want to start with you because I follow you and your wife, Vice Mayor Victoria Siplin. You went down to the border, the Texas border, around when all this was happening. So I want to hear your personal story. What did you see? What happened when you got there?
Well, the backdrop is Vice Mayor Victoria Siplin is an immigrant. She's a child of Haitian migrants who migrated from Haiti to the Bahamas. Her mom died after the fourth sister was born. Their father abandoned them, so they were sent to Fort Lauderdale with an aunt. The aunt raised her. The aunt's children were matriculated to become citizens, but of course, Victoria Siplin was not a citizen. So when I met her about 20 years ago, she was applying for her citizenship. And of course, because of HORIFA, because of President Clinton initiated a bill that would allow Haitian immigrants who had been over here, who was in the asylum process, to apply for HORIFA and get their citizenship. So because of Congressperson Carrie Meek, she and I met, and of course, we got married, and of course, she matriculated, I think in 2008, got a citizenship, and she was able to vote for the presidency for the first time. And of course, she ran for the county commission as the first Haitian elected in Central Florida. And a couple of years ago, she was elected to be chairperson, president of all the Haitian American elected officials from around the country. And we had all of them here in Orlando last January and had a great event. And of course, she's treasurer today. And of course, after we saw that, it appealed to her emotions. She wanted to do something. So she said a couple of Thursdays ago, Gary, let's go to Del Rio. And of course, she booked the flight. However, before that, we did send a plane load of food to Haiti in relief of the earthquake. So I think a couple of Thursdays ago, we flew to San Antonio. Thursday night, we drove to Del Rio, and we got a chance to visit the bridge. We met with some of the Haitian immigrants there, some of the other members from NEO, the National Organization of Haitian American Elected Officials, and we went to Del Rio, and of course, we had a meeting with the Border Patrol under the bridge. So we got this kind of like the bridge over by I-4 in Michigan. Okay, so it's a bridge where initially it was 200 migrants to 400 migrants. Then there were 900 migrants, and immediately after that, it increased to 9,000. And there were only 90 ICE agents there. And and then of course it increased to 16,000 migrants that were actually accounted for. And as you well know, there was no one matriculated from under the bridge. So what had happened while they were there, and the reason why it increased so far, after we talked to some of the migrants, is that they watch Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp app. And of course, they realized that that border, Del Rio, was the easiest access border to cross from Mexico into America. And you can imagine some of these folk, they're Haitian immigrants. They came from Haiti 9 or 10 years ago. They went to Brazil. Yeah. They went to Chile. Okay, so they speak Creole and Spanish and English. So they stayed there until they got an opportunity on Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp to see that there was an opportunity to come to America. And of course, you know that the president claimed that when he became president, he was going to take down the wall. So of course, the cartel that's in Mexico doing what they do best, they were waiting for him to get elected. And of course, he got elected. And of course, they start doing what they do normally. And of course, this is verified by the DE agents, the ICE that was there with us. Okay, the agents. And of course, so they start coming through Mexico. So some of them flew from Chile. Some of them got a bus from Brazil. Some of them walked. Okay, can you imagine walking in case on a bus from Chile and Brazil through South America and then through Mexico and then getting to the border? And they organized that. They admitted they got all that information from Facebook or Instagram. So they eventually got there. And of course, they crossed. And as we talked to the Border Patrol, they said that, as I said, there was first 200 migrants, then there were 400 migrants. And then as the word spread that they were being admitted over under the bridge, it became to 9,000. And then, of course, eventually 16,000. So the ICE agencies, the Border Patrol said they did feed them. They got water for them and all of that. But of course, there were conflicting reports because someone reported that the migrants under the bridge were not being fed. So what they were doing is going back to Mexico. And as you saw them, I didn't realize what they had in their hands when the Border Patrol on the horses were using their reins to swing at the migrants. And Victoria said, well, baby, that's food. So, obviously they didn't have food under the bridge enough to take care of their family. So they went back to Mexico and got those takeouts, as you and I get when we go to a restaurant to take home. And that's what they had in their hands when they were running, trying to avoid the Border Patrol on those horses. So eventually they really came back under the bridge. And, because of the photographs and because of, Victoria and Leon and other people complaining about what had happened, they began to provide them food. So they had all kind of bathrooms out there. They had food out there. They had water out there. Because of that videotape and because of the action of the Border Patrol using the reins at the men who were getting food for their families. And by the way, a third of the migrants there are children, were children. Okay. And we have a family now in Orlando who's a mom, she's pregnant 9 months. So, we're making provisions for her to go to Arnold Palmer, Winnie Palmer to have her baby. So they were under the bridge. As he said, no one was processed under the bridge. The migrants were sent to ICE Center to determine their status. Some of them have ankle bracelets on, some of them don't. The migrants have been coming since August 31st from 92 different nationalities. Okay, so they're not all Haitians. Right. 92 different nationalities. And from January to August 31st, there's been over 90,000 migrants come to America. All right. Wow. And they're not all Haitian. Okay. Wow. There were only 7,000 last year. because of the previous administration's policy. They had Mexico stop those migrants in Mexico, and they could apply from that point. So it was much less migration across the border. But this year, it's been over 90,000. And of course, you can see some from the reports that there's about 16,000 more in the Caribbean headed towards Texas. And we don't know exactly where they will try to cross over. And when we got to the border, to give you a little bit, and I think I posted under the bridge, but there is a fence out there that they're building right now that you go through in order to get to the border. And Del Rio does have an immigration a station where people can come from Mexico, and go through immigration and visit and vice versa. All right, but these folks didn't have any papers, so they went across the river and the water and crossed there and got under the bridge. And the Border Patrol agents say, because it was so hot out there, that's why they told them to go under the bridge to take shelter.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, Attorney Siplin, what I want to know is because, like you said, there were conflicting reports, and they weren't being fed, and now I hear that they were being fed. Now, is this from the start when they saw them gathering at first, or was it like when they started processing them a few days later?
Well, we're not quite sure. There's conflicting testimonies. Obviously, everybody was not being fed if the dads and the men had to go back to Mexico and get those takeout boxes to bring back to their families. Okay. Right. So once they saw that, then because of the pressure, I believe they began to get organized and to provide them with free food and water and toiletries and things like that. Okay. And then, of course, once the cry came out from Congress and we talked to Marco Rubio and some other folk, they made some phone calls. And of course, President Biden said he was going to correct it. And Mayorkas came out there. One of Victoria's colleagues, the president of NAON, met with Mayorkas, and he said he was going to get rid of it. And by the time we got there that Friday morning at about 1:00, all the migrants had been sent to ICE, and they were matriculated to various organizations. Like, for instance, they have NGOs, non-government organizations, where the migrants go there and they help them get tickets to go to family members around the country if they have family members or places to settle. And of course, there's one organization called the World Center Kitchen that fed the migrants twice a day. And Victoria and I, we did go to Miss Tiffany Burrows' Val Verde Border Humanitarian Coalition, which is in Del Rio, where all the migrants came there. They fed the kids, they gave them clothes, they gave them food, they gave them a lunch when they got on the bus to go to the airplanes, the jets, to go to different places throughout America. And of course, Victoria and I, we met some of the migrants who were going to Orlando, and we exchanged numbers with them. And of course, we just met one family Wednesday. He had an appointment, the four of them, his wife, his 9-month-old, and his 18-year-old son, to go to immigration. So we made sure they attended so they won't be in violation of the law. So they went there, and now they got another appointment in 2023. So the process now that Victoria and I are working on is making sure that if they're going to be here for 2 more years before they get matriculated, that they get their work permit, since we don't want them, they got to take care of their family. And of course, that is a part of immigration. They can't get a work permit. So we're going to be asking about the work permit. And of course, Victoria's asking about the ankle bracelet on one of the father's ankles. So, I mean, that's kind of like a buggy item that shouldn't be there. I don't understand why they do it, but they've done it to some of the migrants. So that's what we're working on. As I said before, we started to show the babies. A lot of the babies that we saw in Del Rio had, coughing. They had a cough about them. And obviously it's kind of sandy out there and dusty out there. And one of the babies that we took to immigration on Thursday, Victoria called and got them an appointment, at a clinic, and the baby has an infection. I'm quite sure the other babies have infections too. And they gave them a prescription that's for the next 10 days that will get rid of the infection, so the baby will be okay. And the other family that has the 9-month pregnant wife, we're organizing with her to get into Winnie Palmer. And of course, the Haitian ministers here in Central Florida have stepped up, and they found housing for the migrants that have come to Orlando, Florida. They've identified some family members. Victoria and I have visited some of the homes. We talked to Pastor Carwell and Pastor David Jocks. They've stepped up to the plate, and they're helping out big time. So all we're trying to do right now is make sure that every immigrant go to ICE to comply with the law, so they're not in violation and they will get immediately deported if they come find them. And of course, we want to make sure that they get their work permit so they can start taking care of their families and not be a burden on the welfare system or whatever, because there are a lot of jobs out there. We're passing by McDonald's yesterday. They had jobs. We were down I-Drive, the businesses there. We're saying hiring all positions. So, and they've asked Victoria about work, and she said, well, you can't work right now. We told them that you got to just wait until we get you a work permit, and then we can definitely find you a job and your wife to get a job. And of course, the 18-year-old, they're in Pine Hill. So we called the school board, and the school board said, yes, get the information to us, and we'll get the 18-year-old to finish up his 12th grade year, hopefully at Evans High School. So, they matriculate in a legal, in a fair and sanitized and healthy manner. And we're very grateful for people like you want to broadcast this to see if folk out there do want to help. And of course, the Haitian pastors and county government has helped out. The medical staffs have helped out around how Orlando Health has helped out. So we've given a great deal of assistance from everybody around here. And of course, Rubio's office has been great. They've been communicating with Victoria day and night. Rubio even called me when I was in Del Rio to see what kind of assistance that he could provide. So it's always good that people forget party, forget politics, and decide that people are people that need help. And I'm very proud of that fact.
All right. Well, thank you. I thank you for your service, you and Vice Mayor Victoria Siplin, because it's a lot of people, especially in the political world, and they talk a good game, but you guys are really about service, and I really appreciate that, because I feel so good to know that there's somebody out there. I might not have the skill or the know-how, but you guys know how to get work permits and how to work with that community so they can go ahead and get work here in this country. So I'm so relieved to hear that. Thank God for you. Russell, did you want to ask Attorney Siplin anything? Because this is a rare opportunity where we get to interview someone who actually went down to the border.
Well, first, let me say good morning and thank you for having this Mindsets for Success TV show. Also, good morning to Senator Siplin, who's very knowledgeable. If you ask me, he just defined the mindset for success. Everybody, likes to go around and say that Black Lives Matter. And if we're going to say Black Lives Matter, Black lives definitely include those Haitian lives that were at risk. He gave an excellent description of what's occurred from the persons. Here you have individuals that are escaping Haiti because you had an assassination of a president, you've had earthquakes, you've had hurricanes, you've had a lot of disasters, and some of them flowed all the way down to South America, and they were trying to come through the land of the free and home of the brave that's getting exposed that they're getting abused. Senator Siplin went to describe how people are living under conditions where many are starving, families, whole families, and men, women, children, boys, girls. In addition to that, newborns, people having babies right under the bridge that he described. He and his wife, Commissioner Siplin, took the initiative to go out there. So many people were afraid, but they took the initiative to go out there. Again, it's like turning that anger into action. After the marches, after the forums, let's go out there and make a difference. So now what he just described is the thing is policy. How do they get asylum? Informing the people and understanding how you can assist. And at the end of the day, one Senator Siplin once told me that politics is how much and who gets it, and assuring that they get it. So I don't think there's a question. I guess the question is, how much more can individuals assist? Can we donate money to a specific cause that you recommend to help in this effort?
Yes, there is, Russell. That's a very good question. And there is NEON, which is a not-for-profit organization that Victoria and all the Haitian elected officials from around the country are a part of, and they are in the process of getting lawyers for those people. And I can give you the information as Neon, and you can call, give you our number, you can call so that people can donate money to Neon, and Neon will share the money to a variety of organizations around the country. Victoria, as a treasurer now, she sat down and wrote about 10 checks out there. I think one check was $10,000 to organizations that are helping the Haitians matriculate in America today. So yes, you can contribute to Neon, and they will utilize the money to give to organizations that are really helping these Haitians out.
And that in itself is awesome. So along with that, so we have Neon, which Commissioner Siplin served as president of for a couple years even, that is matching these efforts to help persons of Haitian descent. And I think to me, as she does, I'm the founder CEO of Build Black Daily, and it's Black, specifically saying Black and not African American, because that's inclusive of persons of every demographic of
That's right.
African descent, whether they're Caribbean American, Jamaican, Haitian. You got everything, Black Mexican, Black Puerto Rican, brothers and sisters, Black Brazilian. You got Blacks of every effort. And I think the thing is for people to understand, we're all Black in it. It's like, again, it sounds good to say Black Lives Matter until it's time to prove that Black Lives Matter. And
Yes.
we see that we have some separation amongst our own brothers and sisters right here. And
I mean, we're all Black though.
Yeah. But see, it's like, what better than a state like Florida to see? Florida has so many persons. It's such a dynamic multiculturalism that Senator Siplin, Commissioner Siplin, take the initiative to go out there. Like I said, they even got our U.S. senators calling them to leverage the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's really on us to push it up and give it more visibility. Give it more visibility and sow resources into it. So I'm going to tell you, I'm one person, but I can put $400 into Neon myself.
Wow, praise God.
Wow.
And I'm gonna, you send me the info, I'm gonna, put $400 into that. I might be remiss if I didn't tell you about the good work and mentorship I've gotten from Senator Siplin over the years. He is a man of action. He's not gonna sit still. And he's blessed to have two children that have gone on to great HBCUs, historically Black college and university. And if we're gonna say that, we must say the Black. And he's an alum of Johnson C. Smith University, himself of Howard University, to which his son is blazing the golf team.
That's true.
Right now, he is blazing it. I've been seeing it, man. Very proud of the work that you and your family continue to do. But it's like, we got to keep the main thing with this. Don't, like, you see in the press cycles, it's dying down some, but there's still thousands of people that need help.
Exactly.
And the exposure of the treatment, all right, it was horrendous treatment. It was horrible treatment. And it begs the question, how long has this treatment been going on? Before it was caught on camera, right? How long have they been literally treating people as third-class individuals, taking advantage of them? It gets caught. It needed to get caught and exposed. And you're right. The Biden administration, they got to take some accountability. They got to.
Well, let me stop you right there. I want to chime in on that, Russell, because the Biden administration, which I really take them at their word, I think that they're sincere in the fact that they pledged to do better. Biden promised to do better. So I think they'll get there. But in the meantime, I want to play this clip because this is the Border Patrol chief. His name is Raul Ortiz. And he said in a press conference that they didn't know who were the smugglers and who were the migrants. This is their answer when he was asked the question about, why do you have the horseback men out there with their whipped reins or whatever you call it. But this is his answer. And he said that they didn't know who were who. So they had to maintain security. And to me, that seems to be an excuse. Like, I'm expecting better. Like, you need to have some kind of order. And I know it's rough being out there on that terrain and to have some type of process and order. But I'm looking at this as an excuse. And I'm expecting better. I'm expecting them to do a whole turnaround and to not have this visual again. Okay, so let me just go ahead and play this clip, and then I want you guys to chime in afterwards.
I will tell you that the Horse Patrol units down here are going to play an integral part in the security response. As you know, we have about half of this area locked down, and we're working on trying to get the other side of the bridge completely locked down. And so what I asked our Horse Patrol units to do yesterday is to do an assessment and find out if we had any individuals in distress, and to be able to provide information and intelligence as to what the smuggling organizations were doing in and around the river. As was witnessed in the video and some of the pictures, the migrants were going back and forth. We do not know who are the smugglers or who are the migrants. So it's important that those Border Patrol agents maintain a level of security for both themselves and for the migrant population as they were trafficking back and forth. But as the Secretary mentioned, I've ridden horses for several years. Operating in the riverine environment on horseback is a difficult situation, and trying to maintain control of those horses so we do not get in a position where we injure a migrant as they're trying to make that treacherous trek across that river is probably more important than anything, and I'm pretty sure and confident that that's exactly what was happening. But we will certainly look into the matter to make sure that we do not have any activity that could be construed as a response to a law enforcement effort that is unacceptable. Thank you.
Okay. So what do you guys think about that? Because again, I'm trying to be positive, okay? But and again, I know the Biden administration is sincere in their promise to make things better. So, but what do you think about this? Because I don't want to see this image again of them, ropes or reins, whatever you call it. I believe Senator Siplin call it reins. Is that what
Yes,
the
that's what it
term
was.
is? I don't
Yes.
want to see that image because these are not cattle. These people are not cattle. They're not sheep. They're human beings. So what can we do to improve this? Some kind of, you know, humane way of dealing with migrants. Yes, it's illegal the way they're going about it, but it doesn't warrant this type of action.
Well, we got to be fair, and the Border Patrol does have a very difficult job. I was observing news station yesterday, and of course, they were showing the cartel firing bullets or whatever they were firing from Mexico into America, which is being looked into by the Secretary of State right now. And of course, the cartel does have a strong influence in Mexico and trying to get drugs and fentanyl and things like that to America. And of course, they have to see if there's a criminal or there's an immigrant. But I think this could have been averted if they would have provided those families with food and water, and then there would not have been a need to go back over to Mexico to purchase food in those bags and then come back to try and feed their families. So they have a right to try and protect, the border. But of course, if they had fed them, provided them food and water, then the men would not have been going back to Mexico and coming back with the food, and they wouldn't have to have the horses trying to discern if they are a legitimate immigrant or they're part of the cartel. So that's how I would explain that. But I do think that the Biden administration need to develop a border policy, an immigration policy for the whole country, not just the border, but for everybody, because there are people who come to America to work on the work permits. And I've talked to some of my corporate clients, and that time frame is backed up 2 years to get legitimate workers to come to do a work that other Americans can't do. So I think he has a right to say that. But of course, if they had acted proactively before that, there wouldn't have been a need to use those reins around those Haitian immigrants.
Yeah. And, I concur with everything Senator Siplin said. I'm going to just go a step further. Let's be honest. If they weren't black, they wouldn't have treated them like that. If they didn't have the melanin in their skin that made them darker, they wouldn't have treated them like that. It's like, let's call it out. I know we want to stay away from the isms and keep the policy in hand, but we know it was racial. We know it was, discriminatory. They were treating them like slaves, like chattel slavery, literally in existence in 2021 during a pandemic, taking it out on them. So it's like, let's call it what it is. And let's, that was a load of nonsense that the guy just said, and it goes into the same boat as people when you hear about, senseless treatment from law enforcement to blacks, where people say, make up every excuse on earth until you see a live video of 9 minutes with somebody with a knee on a neck that nobody has yet to explain yet. Not one person in law enforcement has explained that. So again, when you expose this stuff, then it becomes clear and everybody wants to dance around the issue. And as Senator Siplin said, if you were treating them like human beings from the start, none of this would have been a problem. Treat them like human beings. Treat them like they were coming from Ireland. Treat them like they were coming from anywhere else. Here in the same boat, here we are. We're about to welcome all kind of folks from Afghanistan, right? Welcome with open arms. There's going to be no treatment of that sort. So let's, it's like we do have a racial discussion that still needs to be talked about, regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of who gets in Congress and who gets in Senate. And it requires resources to elevate us. It's an informal tier system that I think the Border Patrol as well as some law enforcement operates under. So, if they were not black, they would not have gotten treated like that.
And take a small break, because on the other side, the second segment, I want to get into the perception and why certain cultures are being treated certain ways. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to take a quick break, just 30 seconds, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. Welcome to the Mindset for Success show. You are watching us today. We are on every Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live and also on YouTube Live. And again, I'm Tamia Brinson, your host. And our guest today, we have attorney Gary Siplin, and he was in the Florida House and the Florida Senate. And he's the managing partner at Siplin Law Firm, PA. And we also have Russell Drake. He is the CEO and founder of Build Black Daily. All right. Let me go ahead and talk about our next segment. We're going to talk about the perception, because we discussed this on the show last week, and I just feel that it's just something about the correlation in the atmosphere and the mindset of our country inside the U.S., how we treat minorities here in our own country, how we're being treated. And that has something to do, this is just my theory, okay, Tamia Brinson. So I think that has something to do with how they view, or our policies, how it's view minorities that come into this or try to come into this country, because other cultures are being handled differently. And they get plenty of sponsorships and they know how to come in and get visas or what have you, or apply for asylum, whatever the case may be. They have all the support that they need. But when it comes to minorities that come in at the border, it's a problem. All of a sudden, they don't know how to process these people, or what will happen, like what happened this time. A photograph come out, footage come out, and they scramble and then they start to process them. So, Attorney Senator, can you speak about that? What kind of changes what can we do? What kind of changes can we make to turn that around that perception?
Well, it has to start from the top. It has to start from Biden, to make sure he talks to Mayorkas and the Secretary of State and give them a policy about treating the Haitian immigrants fairly, like they treat everybody else. I know when I was practicing immigration law 10 years ago, when some of the seniors who speak Creole, went to get their test to become a citizen, some questions they didn't know how to answer, and then there would be no compassion with these seniors. And they're over 65 years of age. They've been in this country for years, and yet because of some dialect, some confusion in terms of the word, they wouldn't be able to pass the test to get their citizenships. So I think there need to be some type of policy sent down from the top, the Secretary of Immigration, to make sure that they are compassionate when they deal with these Haitian immigrants, especially these senior citizen immigrants who are trying to get past that 100-question test to get their citizenship. So I think that's one way. And of course, we just need to have a defined policy that prohibits that kind of treatment. You got to treat everybody that comes in this country under the same laws and under the same policies, and make sure that is enforced, not only from the president's standpoint, but also the managers and people that are in local offices that they come in contact with every day. We went out to immigration on Thursday morning. They did have immigration workers out there helping the people get in line and get organized and telling them what they do and answering questions, because Victoria got the car and talked to one of the officers. So they were very courteous. So it's right. We got to make sure that Biden says that this is how he wants it done. The Secretary of State has to say that. And of course, Mayorkas has to say it. And then the people locally have to make sure that they enforce it.
Okay, wonderful. Now, Russell, what do you think? Is there anything, what type of changes how can we turn around this perception problem?
I think it's all in the policy and the perspective, right? You look at something, right? When you had these Asian hate crimes happening, and our U.S. Congress gathers and they put out an Asian hate crime bill, right?
Mhm.
It's the perspective that we care, and this is unacceptable. And there should be consideration to have a similar bill for Haitian Americans. There should be one to have one for Haitian migrants. When you see these injustices, put some policy and teeth to it to make it known that we got a real issue with this. And, if Dr. King said injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, let's act like it. Let's
Right.
really act like it, and don't be so it's like we're reactive. These pictures get out and everybody's reactive on it, but it's like, take the proactive approach. We got real problems that have stemmed here. And it's like it's like we take about 3 steps forward in minority causes and then about 7 steps backwards. And we may even need to see the minority part encompasses a whole group. So a large, grandiose group. And we may just need to let's just stick it to Black, stick it to Haitian American, stick it to Jamaican, stick it to those groups that we find are the most oppressed. I mean, we can't forget here, Haiti, the first Black independent nation, was oppressed by the whole world historically after they established their freedom. Was oppressed, was fined, had persons, prevent trading with them, and paid out to France for over 2 centuries.
Mhm.
So, we have these historic problems that we've seen with oppressing Blacks, and we got to take some opportunity to enlighten people about them and move steps forward. I know some will say, well, there needs to be reparations, and there do. The reparations come though in policy first, and making it known that we got an issue, and then the economics flow with the policy. But if you don't make it known, then there's some people sitting back again right now. We're about to be in mid-October, come Halloween. How many people are even still going to be thinking about this when Senator Siplin and Commissioner Siplin and Neon and others are working hard to try to get our Haitian brothers and sisters citizenship? How many are even going to still see this? How many are seeing this in the news cycle? That's why we need good media outlets like yourself and others to keep pushing this forward. We do have an issue. We've consistently had an issue in America, and it's like we're consistently inconsistent. So let's get some consistency and put some policy and teeth to it.
Right, right. And I want to talk to you, Senator, about the actual policy because, mind you, now I admit I am not the most knowledgeable person on immigration policy. So I'm going to lean to you for my knowledge. Um, I've seen reports. First of all, I've seen conflicting reports, like you stated in the beginning, that they that crowd, that 15,000, were deported without given the opportunity to apply for an asylum. Then I heard other reports where I read other news articles. I think it was the New York Times. Don't quote me on that, but
Mhm.
I read where some were given opportunity. For example, single adults were returned. They were deported and returned. But unaccompanied children and families, they were allowed to stay, apply for asylum, and stay, and to return later for their court order. So, can you educate us? Because I'm having a problem with the difference of who gets to apply and who don't. Because I'm looking at the Haitians in particular, because they just went through a devastating earthquake.
Mhm.
They're getting aid and relief, but it's still bad. The conditions are really bad. And not only that, just their president just got assassinated.
All right.
So, educate me because I don't understand what is the difference. Like, what's the rules on who gets to apply and who doesn't?
Well, that's a good question. And as I said early on, the Border Patrol said that none of the immigrants were assessed under the bridge. They were all sent to ICE. And of course, it all depends on what you say when they ask you certain questions. And then you give your name and information. And as you will can imagine, that ICE does have a computer there. And we don't know. I really didn't get a chance to ask them how they decided who to send back. But based upon my knowledge of practicing immigration law in the past, it depends upon what they said, what kind of questions they answered. They answered the questions that they were asked, whether when they met with ICE, if they had been there before, if they had already been, they gave them a name and that name showed that they were deported. So you can't come back if you were already deported. All right. And then, of course, as I said, if they're seeking political asylum, they've been injured or whatever, they've been attacked. So
Mhm.
that's grounds for applying for political asylum. But you're right; they only sent about, I think, 1,200 back to Haiti, as I understand, and the rest was allowed to go to their different cities around the country to meet with family members and to report to ICE immigration, as they did with the families that we had come to Florida, Orlando, on
Okay.
Thursday. So I think it all depends upon what the type of answers they provided ICE when they were interrogated, when they were questioned or interviewed, as they say, with
Okay.
ICE. And of course, if they answered the wrong way, then they gave them a ticket back to Haiti. And that's a question too, because most of these folk that are Haitian came from, as I said, Chile and Brazil. They didn't come from Haiti. Okay,
Right.
so when they identified as being Haitian of descent, then of course they sent them back to Haiti, and they didn't send them back to Brazil or Chile if that's where they came from over
Wow.
those last 9 months when they matriculated from Chile and Brazil to America. So I think what we need to do is develop a policy, immigration policy, just like President Clinton did with HRIFA for those Haitians that had been in America and applied for political asylum, hadn't gotten it
Right.
yet. He
Yeah.
provided them with a bridge to get their citizenship, and that's
Mhm.
how Commissioner Victoria Siplin became an American citizen. So I think President Biden needs to devise a plan, a policy of how they matriculate these particular people. As Russell said, the president, as you have said too, the president just got assassinated in a horrific manner. They've had
Mhm.
several earthquakes. The country is under economic distress. So quite naturally, people want to leave there,
Right.
and they have reasons to leave there to seek a better life. As we welcome everybody from, like I said, there was 92 different nationalities that have come through the border over the last 9 months. So it's not just Haitian Americans; it's people from all over the world trying to get into America. So there needs to be a policy devised to make the record straight.
Right, right. Yeah, I was wondering about that because I saw the conflicting reports. I'm like, wait a minute, why are some allowed to apply and some aren't? Like, that's crazy. And I guarantee you there's no lack of information, no lack of sponsorship from other countries, but whatever. I don't want to get into race. but I still think it's a problem. I got an issue with that.
Well, I
So,
gotta say that we we have been talking to immigration, and we have talked to the lawyers to make sure that these people can work, get a work permit, so they can be they can take care of themselves as opposed to being on welfare or getting
right,
public assistance, which may cause a drain upon our economy. So we're
right.
working on that and working on getting them a work permit and working on them getting a hearing so they can decide whether or not they can be sent back to their country.
Right. And speaking of that, Senator, let me go ahead and because I want you to tell us because you guys are doing so much work. Can you tell us about I saw that you guys sent relief
Yes.
to Haiti. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, Commissioner Siplin, has some constituents who have an airplane, Junebug Foundation, and he does a lot of charitable work. He did a lot of work to Bahamas when, of course, the hurricane went there a couple of years ago. So she asked him, because of the earthquake, could he take some supplies over to Haiti? And of course, he agreed to do that. And what we did was got some supplies from doctors from Orlando Health, donated some supplies, and try to get supplies that dealt with their health, treatment and hospitals and things like that. Not so much of food and clothes, but the things that Commissioner Siplin and I sent to Haiti a couple of weeks ago dealt with medical supplies, alcohol, sanitizers, pain pills, things like that. That was donated from the Orange County government as well as Orlando Health. So that's the kind of thing that we've done. We have a lot of people calling about clothes and things like that, but we're not looking at clothes right now. We want to make sure they got medical treatment. And then, of course, we'll deal with the food issue, and then we'll deal with the clothes eventually. But that was the first trip that we had go over, and we're working on right now, making sure that we can do another trip with additional medical supplies to Haiti. And I can also add that even the families that were in Del Rio, they did receive food and toys and things like that for the kids when they were over there in Del Rio before they embarked upon going throughout the country. And when Victoria and I were in the San Antonio airport, we did see a lot of the families with some of the baggage, the packages that we gave them, boarding planes going to various cities around the country.
Okay. So how can we give to that effort? Do you have a website or that Vice Mayor, or is there organization? Is that same
Thank you.
organization?
Yeah, I know Russell indicated that he wanted to donate a contribution, which is great. So I would ask him that go to the Neon Fact Facebook page. They have the website there. You can go to a Neon website, www.neon.org, and you can contribute that way, or you can send a check in to Neon at 13 North Pine Hills Road, Orlando, Florida 32808. Or if you want to donate medical supplies or even contribute to the Haitian cause, the relief in Haiti, as well as for the immigrants, you can call Commissioner Siplin's County Commission office at 407-836-5860. That's 407-836-5860. And of course, www.neon.org, or you can call, go on the Facebook page under Neon and make a contribution there.
Okay. And the NEON, that's National Haitian American Elected Officials
Officials.
Network.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
So NHAEON.org.
And we get checks every day at the Pioneer's office, and of course Victoria, she deposited them. Of course, as I said, she wrote about 10 checks out to organizations around the country that are helping to make sure that money gets to the right people.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Russell, what about you? Chime in on the example or what would you like to see as far as the policy? Because Senator Siplin just explained that, there is a difference, who get to apply based on their interview. So what kind of changes do you think need to be made in the actual like interview, the process?
Um, I concur. I think there has to be, in a sense, some sensitivity training that's emphasized, right? Emphasized to people, and it's interesting that the senator noted the 92 different nationalities have come through, right?
Mhm.
We only see one that's getting whipped and treated like slaves, literally, but 92 different nationalities have come through. It leads me to think that we may have gone from the back of the bus in the 1950s to putting people to the back of the immigration line in 2021, 60 plus years later, to let people in. So, there may need to be a look at some policy to say, let's move these people who's been systematically oppressed and placed at the bottom the longest to the forefront. And if there's a problem with that, then there's a problem with the whole system. But I think you just need to make a whole shift, all right, and say these persons need to get moved there further. Everybody's got a crisis. Everybody's got some issues. Everybody's not on the news getting whipped, getting lassoed, getting treated badly. Everybody's not getting that type of treatment. If there are 92 nationalities that are getting brought through. Because if it was, we'd be hearing about that too. But we're not. So, with the policy, I think we have to be specific and intentional. And don't give us the blank thing about people of color. And Senator Siplin, know this, that, see, 70 years ago, colored people and people of color are not the same. All right? When the water fountain said colored only, it wasn't talking about people of color, all right? When it said colored only, it was talking about people without melanin complexion. It wasn't talking about persons from everywhere else. So keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Let's say Black, let's say Haitian, let's put that into the policy. Don't blanket us and say people of color. We're woke to that and we're tired of that.
Well, to me, I can add too that, just like President Clinton realized there was a problem with the Haitians who had been trying to get matriculated through society when he was a president. So he devised and Congress passed a bill called HORIFA, Haitian American Relief Act. All right. So because of what the experience they've had, and Russell's been talking about, and of course, since we have a Democratic president, a Democratic Congress, maybe they can devise a bill that will accommodate, as Russell has said, preferential treatment. Or just a preference to the Haitians who have been mistreated and come from a country that has experienced so much damage, so much harm, and the assassination of their president. So that's a consideration for a similar bill like HORIFA that President Clinton did that might be able to be considered and passed today.
Yeah. All right. Well, we getting some good stuff here today, some solutions. Thank you, Lord. So I hope somebody is from the administration is going to be listening to this or watching. Actually, I'm going to send it to a couple people. Okay. That's what I do. But anyways, so these solutions can make its way to the administration. So it will be in a couple offices inbox. And also, let me go ahead and repeat that, the Haitian American Relief Act. So I'm going to emphasize that he revived that. I'm going to emphasize that because, again, I'm going to send this to a couple of people. So let's wrap this up. I thank you guys for showing up again, Senator Siplin and Russell Drake. And let's just take a moment because I know both of you are in the community and you are busy, and I'm so proud of you guys. I look up to you and I really support you because I know God has his hands on you because you are doing it, So Russell, let's just start with you. Any projects or any announcements you want to do at this time? Go ahead.
Let me say Black Media rocks and give another shout out to the Mindset for Success that Tamia Brinson has, and understanding that these topics need to be pushed to the forefront. Build Black Daily. I think my initiative started as supporting Black businesses every day for a consistent year, every day a different business. And now it's morphed into empowerment agency to push people up, communities up economically, socially, educationally, and civically. and keeping economics at the forefront, but talking about civic issues like this one right here as well. And it's like putting economics towards it. That's why I'm saying we are contributing $400 to Neon, and may be able to contribute more to different efforts. What we have coming up is we are going to keep back up on doing highlights on Black-owned businesses in the community. We actually were just the two Haitian American-owned businesses, Justin's Caribbean Fusion Restaurant, as well as Painting with a Twist. Both good owned Black restaurants by Haitian Americans. But keeping the Black again, pushing up, and I want people to ask themselves: are we building Black daily? Are we doing that in our performance, performing with excellence every day? Are we raising our children? Are we taking care of our elders? Are we mentoring? Are we imparting knowledge? Are we supporting Black businesses and intentional about it? Because we know these businesses are quality businesses, and we believe in sowing Black dollars into the Black community to make sure we go around. Everybody has the ability to build Black daily. I give so much respect and credence to Senator Siplin. What I'm pushing right now would not be possible without his leadership and mentorship over the years. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Senator Siplin, I know you gave us a whole lot before, but just quickly, any projects you're working on or anything you want to announce?
Well, I appreciate what Russell Drake is doing. I commend him, and I think he is advancing the right policy for Black America. But Victoria and I, we're just working on making sure that the Haitian immigrants that have been entered, given a mission through Del Rio, are matriculated into society, and all their rights are protected, and the kids do get into schools and make sure that they matriculate in society so they can be tax-paying citizens as opposed to a burden on our society.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So you guys, we're going to wrap it up. Again, thank you for coming on the show. And for the audience, be sure to tune in next week, Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live. And it's also over on YouTube Live. And this is also going to re-air on Kingdom Purpose TV. So if you can pull it up even on Roku, Apple TV, or Fire Stick, you can pull it up there. And it'll re-air on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Okay, so until next week, you guys be blessed.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless.